Group for International Agricultural Research and 10 years for Catholic Relief Services. Sean focuses on linking smallholder farmers to market. Sean is currently working with a cross-agency team on generating agro-enterprise content for cloud-based distance learning systems and creating farmer-facing business tools using ICT solutions. The next speaker I would like to welcome on stage would be Mr. Prashant Gupta, Principal Director, Cloud and Enterprise, Microsoft. Prashant Gupta, Principal Director at Microsoft's Cloud and Enterprise Division, has contributed to cloud computing strategy since its early days. He drove several Microsoft cloud computing innovations. He started his career at Motorola in Chicago, where he drove mobile innovations, including one of the first voice assistant for GPS navigation and the first 3.5G device with touch controls. Prashant helped set up an Ingram-backed Silicon Valley startup in mobile publishing and co-founded Microsoft Accelerator for Startups in May 2012, the predecessor for Microsoft Ventures. In India, his work has included introduction of a smart policy tool for school dropouts aimed at the universalization of elementary education and climate-smart precision agriculture innovations to increase farmers' income. Prashant holds a master's degree from University of Florida and MBA in marketing from Kellogg and Northwestern University and is a recipient of the IEEE Larry K. Wilson Award and Lieutenant Governor General Gold Medal from the University of Delhi's College of Engineering. I would also like to welcome on stage Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, Executive Chairman, SIANT. Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, Executive Chairman of SIANT, is a visionary who has placed India on the global map for leading-edge engineering research and development services. Having established SIANT in 1991, Dr. Reddy pioneered the development of computer-aided design and manufacturing solutions to serve international clients. SIANT is now consistently ranked among the top 15 Indian IT services exporters and has become the largest independent exporter of high-value research and development services. Dr. Reddy has immense passion towards promoting education in India. He is a founding director of the T-Hub and sponsored science CSR initiatives that promote digital education and inclusive growth. Dr. Reddy is an internationally recognized leader with too many awards to list, from the Distinguished Leadership Award from the American Society of Mechanical Engineers to the Padma Shri Award from the Government of India. Dr. Reddy holds postgraduate degrees from Indian Institute of Technology and the University of Michigan. Our last speaker to the panel is Mr. Ajay Vij, Managing Director, Geographic Services, Accenture in India. Ajay Vij is the Managing Director for Geographical Services for India. In this role, he provides strategic direction for the Geographic Unit GU operations and serves as a member of the GU leadership team. In addition, he is actively engaged with shaping the corporate citizen agenda for the firm through his membership in Accenture's Global Corporate Citizenship Council and the Corporate Social Responsibility Board for Accenture India. Ajay joined Accenture in 2006 to lead Accenture Workplace Solutions for India. He has more than 25 years of industry experience and extensive exposure to operations and customer management. A hotel management graduate, Ajay started his career with the Oberoi Group before moving into the IT industry in 2001 when he joined Talisma Corporation as a Director of Operation for its Outsourced Services Division. He then moved to Aditya Technology, where he was Vice President of Business Development.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be with you this morning. This is a vast hall, lots and lots of people. You see, we've tried very hard to be a very diverse panel up here, and we're going to be talking about an exciting new area that's developing. And I think India is really one of the, or this region is one of the real, innovation centres for this area of activity. Just so that we get as much information from our August panel, I think we'll just kick straight in. And I'd like to ask Prashant, if you could tell us about the sort of things that you're seeing in innovation in the intelligent cloud. And I would like to say that Radha should have been here, so I am standing in for Radha, and she sends her apologies. She was rerouted 15 times. She will be here later, but I'm just standing in, so I'm a warm body to manage the panel for this session. So over to you, Prashant.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here. Let me take a minute to talk about intelligent cloud and the core tenets in terms of how Microsoft thinks about intelligent cloud. And then let me give you a few examples of how we have implemented that in India, in education, healthcare, and agriculture, spanning various sectors and so forth. So if you look at the emergence of intelligent cloud in the last decade, really there are three core tenets or pillars, so to speak. The first one is the trusted hyperscale infrastructure. Today, Microsoft Azure spans in 34 regions around the world. Thinking through how we can actually build a secure and reliable infrastructure to where your data is and so forth. And in India, we already have 3 data centers, Chennai, Mumbai, and Pune each and so forth. The second very important thing in this is how do you manage data and apply AI? In that context, we have built a Cortana Intelligence Suite that spans data lake, SQL data warehouse, machine learning, and advanced visualization tools like Power BI to really think about how do you actually bring these very vast sums of data across the planet and start to think about unlocking insights and so forth. And then the third very important pillar in this is APIs to enable intelligent applications. So today we have more than 26 APIs in terms of face, speech, emotion, language to really enable intelligent applications and so forth. On a global scale, most of the Fortune 1000 companies today are using some of these pillars and so forth to really enable intelligent cloud for solutions to their customers and so forth. But coming back to India in terms of how we are actually thinking about innovation for India applying an intelligent cloud is really to think through in terms of inclusive development constructs in education, healthcare, and agriculture. And I'll give you a couple of examples in terms of how we have tried to solve this and so forth. So in education, we started working with one of the states, government of Andhra Pradesh, about 18 months back to really think about understanding school dropouts. And this was really about understanding and predicting these school dropouts so that we can bring targeted interventions in resource-constrained environments and so forth. In that context, we started with about 1,100 schools and 50,000 students in post-grade 10, and then eventually moved across the states, more than 60,000 schools, and now touching millions of students year on year. But this is just one state, and then once we started to talk about at a national level in terms of Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan and the programs that are being put together in terms of universalization of elementary education, this tool became very relevant, and now multiple state governments are adopting this and scaling this and so forth. The second example I'll touch upon is in healthcare. So we started working with LV Prasad Eye Institute to really apply intelligent cloud to see how do you map diseases by geography, how do you bring machine learning in refractive error for children or refractive surgery outcomes and so forth. And this work then led to the introduction of MIND, which is Microsoft Intelligent Network for Eye Care, bringing global eye care institutions, one of the most respected institutions around the globe, from America, Australia, and Brazil, to be part of this consortium. And now we are all working towards a shared mission of how do you reduce avoidable blindness across the planet and so forth. The third example I'd like to touch upon is in the space of agriculture. We started working with ICRISAT, which is right here, thinking about how we actually can help farmers assist these rain-fed smallholder farmers in terms of assisting in terms of when to sow and so forth. And last Kharif season, we actually pull a set of farmers and send them intelligent SMS in their local language in terms of data, understanding climate change, sowing patterns of that area, and gave them a message in terms of when to sow and so forth. And the results increased on an average of 30% for those assisted farmers and so forth. And so I just want to give you a couple of examples in terms of how do you actually think about enabling some of these newer technologies for social impact. And really, this actually drives down the digital divide that we talk about, but more importantly, it talks about inclusion and inclusive development for the wider society and so forth. So can you play the video, please? If it's ready.
Rain-fed farmer preparing for agriculture is a fragile soil-water equation where timeliness and precision decide on the returns. Even a week's delay in rains can spoil the harvest. Each year, farmers in Andhra Pradesh bring all their traditional wisdom into play to anticipate the best time for sowing their crops. But with climate change and a rainfall deficit, the stakes for getting the timing right are rising. For them, the difference between a profitable year and a failed harvest is information on the optimal time to plant their fields.
Sowing date as such is very critical to ensure that they get a good crop stand, and if it fails, then lot of costs are involved in the seeds as well as the fertilizer applications. With this background, ICRISAT and Microsoft together decided to develop a computer-based sowing date application.
The sowing date application uses powerful cloud-based predictive analytics to advise farmers on the best time to sow their crops, depending on weather conditions, soil, and other indications. It uses Microsoft Cortana Intelligence Suite, including machine learning and Power BI. Users have access to an instant overview of factors that determine a healthy crop yield. The tool helps with insights around soil health, fertilizer recommendations, and 7 days weather forecast.
The experiment we undertook in Andhra Pradesh is already showing positive results, and the farmers who are using our prediction services are enjoying high yields.
ICRISAT టైప్తో చేసుకుని పార్ట్నర్గా జాయిన్ కావడం జరిగింది. అది జాయిన్ అయిన తర్వాత ప్రతి గ్రామంలో దాదాపు 7 గ్రామాలు ఈ పైలట్ సైట్ కింద తీసుకున్న తర్వాత ఈ ప్రతి గ్రామంలో రైతులతో సమావేశం కావడం, చిన్న చిన్న గ్రూప్స్లో మీటింగ్స్ పెట్టడం, ఇప్పుడు 175 మందికి రైతులతో మనం ఈ సంవత్సరం మొదలు కావడం జరిగింది.
జూన్లో తొలకరి వర్షాలు పడితేనే విత్తనాన్ని మొదలైపోయేవాడు. కానీ సార్ వాళ్ళు ఒక కొత్త ఫీచర్ పెట్టి మాకు SMS పంపిస్తాము, ఆ SMS వచ్చిన తర్వాతనే మీరు మొదలు పెట్టుకోండి అని చెప్పిన తర్వాత మేము ఆ SMS కోసం వెయిట్ చేసి వాళ్ళు జూన్ 20 తర్వాత నుంచి విత్తుకోండి బాగుంటుంది అని చెప్తే మామూలుగా ప్రతిసారి జరిగేలా కాకుండా కొద్దిగా వాళ్ళు చెప్పిన టైం నుంచి అప్పుడు విత్తుకున్నాం. ఆ విత్తుకోవడంతో మేము దాదాపు ఒక వారం 10 రోజులు వెనకబడినట్లు అనిపించింది. కానీ దీనికి తగినంత తేమ శాతం భూమిలో ఉండిపోయి మొలక శాతం పెరిగింది.
This particular approach of taking the advisory based on the scientific information have benefited in harvesting 30 to 40% increased crop yields during the last rainy season.
ఇదే కాకుండా ఈ వచ్చే సంవత్సరంలో 2000 మంది రైతులకు ఈ SMSల ద్వారా,
all of which means farmers have some help from modern technology to add to their traditional wisdom. This translates into healthier crops, increased incomes, and happy families across rural Andhra Pradesh.
Thanks very much, Prashant. Excellent video, and I think as this was as you know, India was the home of the first green revolution, and I think that this just shows the power of using, the incredible resources behind the new artificial intelligence approaches and applying that back to very localized solutions for farmers, seeds, sowing date, water management being incredibly high levers for people. And once you're getting these 30, 40%, 50% gains consistently in production, I think that really is going to be part of the solution for food security in the future, no?
Absolutely. With climate change, such solutions are very, very important.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Prashant. Okay, moving quickly on. AJ, if I could ask you to tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing in digital innovation in skills or skilling partners and this idea of cross-sector partnerships. I think having the information is one thing, but actually adopting it and delivering it really is key to success. So please.
Thanks, Sean and Prashant. That was really nice. So I'm sure all of you know that at Accenture we believe that every business is or will become a digital business. Right? That's the core of our business plans today, and it's only right that I bring this to the table over here. So as a part of our CSR agenda, or what we call corporate citizenship, our focus since 2010 has been on skills to succeed. Basically skilling youth to get a job, be successful at it, or start their own business, right? Our target is that we want to do 3 million people by 2020. We're progressing well on that. India, obviously, thanks to the size or as a proportion of the overall global firm, is contributing a lot to it. So that's where we are really heading. I would answer this question in 3 forms. One, of course, is the very core of digital delivery. So very industry agnostic, no matter whether we are doing it for retail or hospitality or for BPO for that matter. The more digitization we can bring into the course content, into the ability to reach out to people, in the ability to get them together is what the delivery process is all about. So we today have about 24 partners in the country, most of you should be here, very leading non-profits within the nation, taking it forward with us to say, yes, we can make an impact and continue to multiply it. Focus youth, focus rural women, focus people with disability, right? And that's how we really want to run the 50-odd projects that we are running in this space. So digital delivery is the first space that we really bring this agenda onto. The second, I would say, is and gets more closer to the whole content of technology itself is digital skilling, right? While one is digitization for anything you do, two is preparing people for the new digital wave that we are going through right now. A good example, let me take it by an example to explain how we do it. So Nazra is this girl who sits out of Calcutta. She is a part of this new course done by Anudeep Foundation, one of our partners. The course is called Diya, where she is training herself for basic digital skills, right? Through one of the iMerit, Radha, who's not here, but through her partnership, she's got a job now in a crowdsourcing space. So she works in this platform of Crowdflowers, where her job is to tag the flower, give it a code number, continue to track it as it moves across these various supply chain management, etc. So to that extent, taking it to the rural world and skilling people in the digital work itself. So that's the second space which I think, thanks to our background of being a technology company, we really bring to the table. The third and the new one here, I would say, is digital identity, right? And let me further clarify, digital professional identity. So in partnership with LinkedIn for Good, we've started creating this network of these youth who pass out through this program to be able to, one, get known, for us to be able to continue to help them as they move in this space and make sure that they have a job, they continue to enhance that job. If they want to move from one job to the other for their growth and development, we enable that through this platform. Early days, but I think that digital identity or digital professional identity will give them the right network to take it forward. So very, very simply put, I put it there. I would also want to add, before I hand it back to you, Sean, that so we have Accenture Technology Labs, where their job is to actually forecast the trends of the future. So they're obviously researching for how we can use all these new technologies in this space. Some recent examples, and I'm sure you would have caught in the media, are around Akshay Patra, right? So we work with them for 1 million meals a day, using all the recent technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, as well as just to enable the whole thing to get them the right supply chain management in place and multiply their reach by actually already 2x and more that we expect. So 1 million meals a day is what Akshay Patra does today, and we're very proud to be partners of that. So similarly in other space with Microsoft and Drishti for the people with visual disability to visualize what's happening in this room. Right, and the whole technology talks back to them, like I see 600 people, there's a conference going on, this seems to be the topic, there are 4 people on the panel, is the other space that Accenture Technology Lab is working on today. So collectively, Sean, it's about digitizing what we do so that we can get more scale and industrialization. 2 is training people on digital skills so that they can take it forward, since that's the future. And then anything else in the space where we can make a large social impact. So that's where we come from.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And I think this idea of allowing people to take real advantage of these networks through their own identity to build their own sort of profile, if you like, and that leads into all the ideas of financing and other aspects. So that's an incredible step forward, and I think quite a new area for Accenture to be building out into these areas now. Anyway, just to keep up with time, Mohan, if I can take us on, you're going to take us back to sort of the primary stage and using technology for primary education in order to build the next generation of people, and also for adult literacy. And you have a couple of slides to show us on this. Okay. Please do.
So good morning to all of you. What I will do in next 4 minutes, I believe, is what I was told I should be talking about. Let's see if I can keep that up. But share with you our personal experience in terms of what we're doing in the primary education and adult literacy. A case where there is a public-private partnership, there's a fairly large amount of innovation, and finally we are in the position to measure what the impact is because of this intervention. Simply putting, what we have done is we created what are called as signed digital literacy centers. These signed digital literacy centers, or they call CDCs, have 3 components in it. Component number 1 is a digital classroom. Component number 2 is a digital library. And a component number 3, which is the digital literacy mission. I'll come to that in a moment. So what we have done further is that this particular case has been implemented now through our foundation. I'm a first generation entrepreneur. I run a computer services company called Sign. We have a foundation, and the foundation takes this initiative on this particular work, and through which we picked a Salingam-Palli Mandal, which is, if you look at a country, a state, a district, and then down to next physical geographies, it's called Mandal in India, which has 54 schools in them. And we've now populated these 54 schools with over 1,000 desktop computers. And each one of the schools now have a 4 megabits per second link, and it's fully functional. These are all in this neighborhood cells. Now, looking at what do we do in the classroom? Classroom has online content. It's all in the cloud at this point of time. And the digital libraries have repository of high quality content on the internet. So on the literacy mission, what's happening right now is, if some of you are familiar, there's an initiative of Government of India called the Digital India. Digital India has 3 components to it. One is connectivity, which our Honorable Minister has talked about, with his water taps being connected with the high-speed connectivity and so on and so forth. The second one is the content, which is basically more of applications. And the third one is the literacy part, and where we are trying to play a role on the literacy part. Let me tell you then, what is the role of ICT in it? The first and the foremost is, if you look at our digital learning centers, or the CDCs as they're called, as said, are using technology for creating multi-format learning curriculum. It is agnostic whether it is CBSE, it is ICSE, or it is SSE. The second one is, very important, is that there is a teacher's training module which is there in the classroom. I was honestly very surprised when I went to one of the schools in the recent past, and the security guard was telling me the last person to leave a school is actually a teacher, because the teacher is learning a lot out of the digital learning center. A third one is that the content that's being developed all around the world through experts is now available online to the students. And in addition to the static content, today the students can also access interactive sessions from online. The digital libraries, will it move? Which way do I point out? This way, this way. Can somebody move this slide, please? Yeah, the next one. Yes, thank you. So therefore, if you look at the next part of it, is the digital libraries that we have in these schools, is that they are all internet connected, so they have the ability to browse the content. That's how ICT is being deployed. We've also given limited access to all the students to various websites for learning. Actually, to the extent every student in our schools have a username and a password, so that we can definitely identify if there's going to be any misuse. A third one, as I said, is called the National Digital Literacy Mission. It's also called the Learning Center, is that we're creating online digital certification for the community. Basically, if you're looking at India with 300 million to 400 million netizens to come online in the course of next 10 years, you need to get that literacy across to people. And that cannot happen in any other form unless we start getting into the grassroots level. And that is where we decided that we'll take this particular vehicle called the school in order to ensure we bring in literacy into the common citizens of our country. And each of these centers at this point of time, actually the schools close off at 3:30, from 3:30 to 7:30, that's for 4 hours, we run them as MDLM centers, and each one of them now train 1,000 common citizens every year. These programs would vary anywhere between 20 hours of 20 contact hours to 40 contact hours. Moving further, so where is the innovation that's involved in it? Go back, please. You're going too far. You need to go back. I just pressed it once. One more. Thank you. So therefore, the first one is its optimal utilization of resources. You look at what we're doing today. It's a public-private partnership. The school belongs to the government. Physically, the school has been built by the government. What have we done? We have done the incremental investments in terms of getting the hardware, the software, the license for learning, and equally importantly, getting that pipe connectivity. The second part, which we think is a fairly innovative model that we have, is that we're combining now primary education and adult literacy. The school children go away at 3:30 in the afternoon. The asset was lying idle after 3:30, and what we're doing is from 3:30 to 7:30, we are in a position to use that particular asset. The second one is that as a result of this, we have seen tremendous amount of penetration. Because in one shot, we could get down to as many as 54 schools. We've done that in the last 6 months. The other important part, which I think is to be highlighted, is that corporate best practices are being taken to these schools for implementing some of these CSR projects. What do we do in corporate? We measure to manage. I keep saying anything that can be measured has to be measured. Once it is measured, it has to be compared. Once it's compared, if there's a variation, you do what is called as a relentless root cause analysis of why the deviation comes in before we find the reasons for it, find a strategy to fix it, and once we fix it, it never gets repeated. So is the case with our initiative with our schools too. And the other thing which is equally important is that we don't recognize that there's a fairly large amount of volunteerism which can also be brought into this initiative. I run a company which has about 14,000 employees. out of which I believe about 6,000 of them are based out of Hyderabad. On this initiative, we have about 2,400 volunteers who go to these schools every week, and they think enormous amount of responsibility rests on their shoulders to make sure that this particular initiative becomes successful. The last one, in terms of innovation, is that we're now trying to move this into a cloud-based mobility module so that the children can start from anytime, anywhere. Let me then move on to my last module. Next slide, please. Is that we measure to manage. So what are the results that we are seeing at this point of time is that this would benefit 20,000 children in these 54 schools in terms of becoming digitally literate. That's number one. The second one is there will be 50,000 common citizens who will now have adult literacy as far as computers are concerned. And finally, since the initiative was launched by Mr. KTR in September, we've already delivered 4,700 certificates to common citizens already. That gives you a flavor of just not implementing a project. What is equally important is that you measure what the results are. Well, we're in this, an offshoot of this, or probably this is a superset of what we started off 8 years back. We actually, out of the 54 schools, 16 of these schools were adopted by us in the year 2000 for an initiative which was called Adopt a School, primarily to bring the level of schools in terms of quality of education to a higher level. And for those 16 schools, if you look at it, if you move on to the next slide, what are the results that we have? A situation was when we went and adopted these schools, no more than 22% of children were girl child. What do we have now? Previous slide, please. What do we have now? 52% of children in our schools are girl child. Amazing results that we've seen. The second one is that we have now been educating 11,000 plus underprivileged children. We take care of everything, and there are some of the schools close by, they're as good as, if not superior to even the corporate schools. And finally, from a situation where we had a pass percentage, which was as much as 28%, we brought it up to 85%. So therefore, by intervention from the corporate, through a partnership with public, the third constituent, which is the society, can get greatly benefited. That's the example I have in front of you. My last slide to conclude, in terms of the policy level issues, is that we believe that there could be a lot more to be done. A lot more can be done. I think the challenges that we have is government has to lay out, next slide please. Government has to lay out their policies, and as far as the private partners are concerned, the challenges we have are in terms of execution and funding. Even both of them are being addressed, then you've got to ensure the policy is right. So we have been trying to lobby with the government. I've been talking to Mr. KTR, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, and many others. But ultimately, the big satisfaction that we have is that through this initiative, the society not only gets benefited, but benefited many-fold. And that's the innovation that we brought into this particular model. Thank you.
I think with that, being consummate professionals, I think we may have reached the end of our time. Can I just get a check-in with the timekeeper? Is that right? Oh, we've got 5 minutes. 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes. So one question. I mean, incredible amount of scaling, use of massive new technology. Stephen Hawking, as you know, has been talking about what will happen with the effect of AI and machine learning, and his idea is that it's going to be a fairly dismal outcome. The machines in the end will take over to the world, and that will be the doom of man, kind of thing. You are painting a very positive picture of using this incredible power of this technology to reach the poorest, the most underprivileged people in the world, and making a huge transformation. So tell us about your sort of vision of the AI sort of future as opposed to what Stephen Hawking is saying. So 2 minutes each, gentlemen, on is it going to be a dystopian or a bright future?
I think it will not be disruptive at all. It will complement each other. I'm very optimistic about it. It's a man who has to create that artificial intelligence. It's not somebody from the Mars who will come and create it. So we will create that artificial intelligence.
And certainly, I think it has, every time a new technology has come in, a disruption that has come into technology, it has only benefited the mankind in a big way. Comforts have increased, economic benefits have increased. So whether it's AI, AR, VR, or it's 3D printing, you can name any of these. All these, to me, are extremely positive developments to make sure that Earth will be a better place to live.
I mean, you do worry me slightly. My wife always says when men get into these kinds of things, the outcomes are not quite as good as they might be. So, AJ, 2 minutes.
So let me add to what Mohan rightly put there. You know, the moment you personalize an experience, you actually put yourself on the driver's seat. Correct? Then it's not about where technology will take you, but it's about where you will go with the technology. So it's not a question of adopting whatever is available, but it's a question of let technology adapt to where you are. And you're right, it will need to have inherent changes for it to be successful. Right? To the extent that I think the very way we track goals will need to change. It won't be about sales numbers or revenues or number of people we train. It will be about what do the people really want and how can this disruptive technology make that happen.
Okay, so Prashant, the tough question here. So machines get more clever than people and they start to say, these people are just not doing the jobs they should be doing. Let's take over. How do you safeguard us from this kind of intelligence?
Yeah, so, if you look at last 2 decades of bends in the technology curve, right? Really the first bend was in the cell phone. People starting to use it as a mobile with touch and voice controls and really truly connected with the wider society and so forth. The second big bend that came in after a decade, right, was in cloud computing, which was really making it a little bit more hybrid, hyperscale, and intelligent. Now, in these 2 bends, there is something very, very interesting that has happened in terms of this connected society paradigm, and which is what we are going to go and see and experience in the next decade, which is really a cortex of assistance. If you think about it, there is a whole lot of data that you are generating on the go, and there's a whole lot of data that is being analyzed by the cloud at this point. So in this case, you are actually moving from a very connected society to a very intelligent society, which is very insight-oriented and so forth. And this is where all the machine learning, artificial intelligence, are going to actually contribute to this cortex of assistance. So the way you have to think about this is not that it's going to replace, but it is going to assist and to make our lives a little bit more better, efficient, and so forth. So if you take that approach, then it is very positive. And that's how we should look at it.
Great, thanks very much. So a very bright future here with the ideas that this is going to be a much more inclusive technology rather than driving inequality. And I think if we do have, quorums like ourselves who can make sure that these types of technologies reach the people in most need, then I think we can accelerate their experience in life and bring a great deal of dignity to the world that really needs it. So a warm hand, everybody, to Prashant, so PJ and Mohan. Thanks very much, gentlemen.